The fertility app blinked. 11:47 p.m. Tuesday. Nadine Webb sat on the edge of her bed in a Howard University t-shirt, phone gripped in both hands, and typed the most dangerous thing a grown woman can type, the truth. Baby, I need you. I'm ovulating. Please come over tonight. I don't want to do this alone anymore. She stared at those words. Every single one of them real. Every single one of them meant for Deron, the man who had been walking in and out of her life for 2 years like her front door had no lock on it. Have you ever sent a message you instantly wished you could snatch back out of the air? Keep watching. Because what happened to Nadine next will make yours look like a minor inconvenience. Before we start, make sure to hit like and subscribe, and I'm really curious, where are you watching from? Drop your country name in the comments. I love seeing how far our stories travel. She hit send. For exactly 6 seconds, Nadine felt something that almost resembled hope. Like 2 years of waiting had finally found somewhere to land. Then her phone buzzed. She looked at the screen. The contact name was not Deron Fitch. It was not any name at all. Just a flat string of digits she did not recognize, cold, blank, and completely unfamiliar. And beneath it, 3 words that stopped her breathing entirely. Who is this? Nadine's body went completely still. Her thumb hovered. Her chest forgot its job. She had no idea what she had just done. But somewhere across the city, inside a glass tower that touched the Atlanta sky, someone set down a whiskey glass very slowly. And read her message a second time. Nadine typed. Deleted. Typed again. Deleted again. 4 attempts. 4 failures. The 5th one barely made it out alive. I am so deeply sorry. Wrong number. Please forget this happened. I am literally begging you. She sent it and flipped the phone face down like it had committed a crime. She pressed both palms flat on the mattress and stared at the ceiling. She thought about the Chattahoochee River and whether she could throw a phone that far. She thought about calling her coworker Priya and screaming directly into her voicemail. She thought about simply not existing until Wednesday. Her phone buzzed. She flipped it over with one finger, the way a person handles something that might still be alive. 3 words. Are you safe? Nadine blinked at the screen. Then blinked again. Of every response she had braced for, mockery, screenshots, a police report, concern had not made the list. Not once. Not even in the footnotes. Her fingers moved before her brain agreed. Physically? Yes. Otherwise, I'll survive. The 3 dots appeared. Disappeared. Appeared again. His reply came through, and it hit her somewhere she had not been touched in a long time. You shouldn't have to just survive. Nadine set the phone down on the mattress. Pressed one hand flat against her chest. Something behind her sternum cracked open, something she had spent years quietly patching back together. She told herself she was done. She was not responding again. This was over. The phone buzzed one more time. She should have left it alone. She picked it up. The new message read, Are you still there? Nadine sat back against her headboard, pulled both knees to her chest, and told herself she was only going to read it. Not respond. Just read. She responded. And without either of them planning a single word of it, they talked. No names. No explanations. 2 people sitting in the dark on opposite ends of a wrong number, saying more than they had said to anyone in a long time. He asked what she had really wanted tonight. Not in a slick way. In a careful, direct way that caught her completely off guard, the way a question lands when the person asking it actually wants the answer. She told him. A real partner. Someone who showed up when she needed it, not just when it suited them. Someone who stayed. Someone who made her feel like she was worth the effort of staying for. The typing indicator appeared and held for a long time. Then, the people around me show up because they're afraid not to. That's not the same thing. Nadine read those words twice. Then a third time. Because they did not sound like they came from a man who had everything. They sounded like they came from a man who had everything except the one thing that could not be bought, threatened, or arranged. She typed back. What's your name? A long pause. Longer than felt comfortable. Then his reply came through. Does it matter tonight? She should have said yes. She should have closed the app, put the phone on the charger, and gone to sleep. She did not say yes. She kept talking. Nadine cornered Priya Okafor at the nurse's station the next morning before the 7 o'clock briefing even started. Priya. She kept her voice low. That number you gave me 2 weeks ago. The one you said was for if I ever needed anything handled. Priya looked up from her tablet. Yeah. What about it? I texted it last night. Priya's face moved through 3 expressions in under 2 seconds, amusement, then confusion, then something that had no clean name but sat in the same neighborhood as fear. She set the tablet down. Nadine. What exactly did you send? Nadine told her. Priya stopped breathing. She grabbed Nadine by the arm and moved her 3 full steps away from the station, dropping her voice to almost nothing. That number belongs to someone my cousin does business with. And when I say business, I mean the kind where nobody asks questions and everybody goes home because they are smart enough not to ask questions. Priya, he asked if I was safe. That is exactly what someone like that would say. He said I shouldn't have to just survive. Nadine. Priya's eyes were dead serious. That is not a man you accidentally text. That is not a man you text on purpose. That number was for emergencies I pray you never have. Nadine opened her mouth. Her phone buzzed on her hip. She looked down. Unknown number. Right there in the middle of her shift, between a blood pressure check and a medication round. He was texting her again. 41 floors above Atlanta, Kwon Sung-Jin ended a call about $40 million and immediately reached for his personal phone. His office was built to make people feel the weight of where they stood, floor-to-ceiling glass, city lights laid out below like everything already belonged to him, because most of it did. 2 of his lieutenants stood near the door. A legal team sat on hold. A shell company needed his authorization before Tokyo opened. He typed, How was your morning? Min-jun, his head lieutenant, clocked the movement. He said nothing. He had learned long ago that noticing the wrong thing and staying alive required choosing one. Sung-Jin had spent the previous night reading a message from a woman who had no idea who he was. He had run a soft background check, just enough to pull a first name, a profession, a zip code. Nadine. A nurse. Atlanta. He stopped there, deliberately. Whatever else she was, whatever else her life looked like, he wanted to hear it from her directly. That part unsettled him. He never waited to hear anything from anyone. He set the phone down. Returned to the call. Made it through 3 sentences. His phone lit up. She had texted back. He looked at the message. Set the phone face down. Looked up at Min-jun and said one word that ended the meeting, cleared the room, and sent 2 highly paid attorneys back into the hallway without a single explanation. Out. What none of them knew, not Min-jun, not the legal team, not Sung-Jin himself, was that 3 miles away, in a gray office building with cameras pointed at all the wrong places, someone had already flagged unusual activity on Sung-Jin's personal line. They had a name. They had a location. And they were very, very interested in who Kwon Sung-Jin was talking to. 3 days. That was all it took. 3 days of texts that came at odd hours and said too much and meant more than either of them was ready to say out loud. Nadine had started looking at her phone the way she used to look at the door when she was expecting someone she actually wanted to see. That realization alone should have scared her. It did not. Then he called. She was standing in her kitchen, halfway through reheating leftovers, when the unknown number lit up her screen as a call instead of a text. Her thumb hovered. She answered before she talked herself out of it. His voice came through the line and stopped her where she stood. Deep. Precise. Accented in a way that wrapped around each word like it had been chosen carefully and placed on purpose. Nothing about it was casual. Nothing about it was small. I realize, he said, that I have not told you my name. She gripped the counter with her free hand. Kwon Sung-Jin. While he kept talking, something measured, something calm, Nadine pulled up a browser on her phone, typed his name with one thumb, and watched the search results load. She sat down slowly. Kwon Sung-Jin, alleged ties to federal probe into Kwon family holdings. 2 associates found in connection with. She finished the conversation without her voice breaking once. She did not know how. She hung up and stayed completely still on her kitchen floor, staring at her ceiling, processing what her own curiosity had just handed her. Her doorbell rang. She walked to the window first, always the window first now, without knowing when that instinct had developed. A black SUV sat parked directly outside her building. Tinted windows. Running engine. Nobody getting out. She stood there looking at it. And the thing that frightened her most was that her hands were not shaking. He asked to meet. Just coffee. Public place. Her choice entirely. Nadine said yes before the sentence finished loading in her brain. She wore what she always wore, dark jeans, a burnt orange wrap top, her natural hair lifted and full around her face. No performance. No apology. She showed up as herself because she had decided somewhere between his first text and his last call that if this man had a problem with exactly who Nadine Webb was, she needed to know that in the first 5 minutes. He was already there when she walked in. He stood the moment she came through the door. Not halfway. All the way. Like her arrival was the thing the room had been waiting for. Kwon Sung-Jin in person was not what the search results had prepared her for. He was tall and still, the kind of still that took years to develop, the kind that meant a person had learned to let rooms move around them. His suit was charcoal and fitted and said money the way old houses say money, quietly, without trying. He looked at her like she was exactly who he expected and more than he had prepared for. They talked for 2 hours. Not about his business. Not about her wrong number. About everything underneath those things. The city they both loved for different reasons, the families they had both quietly outpaced, the particular weight of being surrounded by people who needed things from them every hour of every day. He listened. Not the way people listen when they are waiting to talk. The way people listen when what you're saying actually matters to them. When she stood to leave, he said, "I'd like to see you again. Under circumstances I can actually explain to myself." Nadine smiled at that. She walked out into the Atlanta afternoon feeling something warm and terrifying move through her chest. She was halfway across the parking lot when she felt it, the specific, electric awareness of being watched. She turned without thinking. A man stood on the sidewalk across the street. Still. Staring. He raised his phone. The camera flash was small. But she saw it. He was not one of Sung-Jin's people. She had already learned what those men looked like. This man looked like something else entirely. Deron Fitch appeared on a Thursday evening with grocery store roses and a story about why the last 2 weeks had not been his fault. He texted first. Then called twice. Then his face appeared on the other side of Nadine's door like 2 years of inconsistency had simply not happened, like charm could patch over absence the way paint covers a wall, without fixing what was underneath. Old Nadine would have stepped aside and let him in. She knew that about herself, and she owned it without shame. Old Nadine had loved Deron in the way people love the one familiar thing in a cold room, not because it's enough, but because it's there. New Nadine stood in the doorway and felt nothing move inside her chest. She was kind. She kept her voice even and her face open. She told him she hoped he was well. She told him she was good, actually good, for the first time in a long time, and that she wished him the same. Deron looked at her the way men look when they realize too late that a door they ignored has been locked from the inside. She closed it gently. She leaned her back against the wood and let out one long breath. Then she pushed off and walked to her kitchen, and her phone buzzed on the counter. Sung-Jin. "Did I tell you that you were on my mind today?" Nadine looked at those words. She read them once, looked up at her ceiling, and smiled, slow and full and completely real. The kind of smile she had almost forgotten lived in her face. She typed back. She was still smiling when a second message arrived. Different number. Not his. 5 words. Stay away from him. Now. Nadine's hands were steady when she forwarded the message to Sung-Jin. She did not add anything to it. She did not need to. His response came in under 90 seconds. 2 words. Lock your door. 53 minutes later, 2 men she had never seen before were standing outside her building. She knew they were his without being told, the way they stood, the way they watched the street without looking nervous, the way they did not look at anyone twice because they did not need to. Sung-Jin arrived 40 minutes after them. He stood at her door, and for a moment neither of them said anything. Then she opened it wider and he came in, into her space, her small living room with the target throw blanket on the couch and the nursing textbooks stacked by the window. He looked around the room with an expression she could not name. Like the realness of it did something to him. He sat. He told her the truth. Not all of it. Enough. The family. The business that operated in the space between legitimate and something else entirely. The people who had spent years wanting to reach him through whoever he was closest to. The reason nobody got close enough for that to be a risk. Until 11:47 on a Tuesday night. Nadine listened through all of it without flinching. When he finished, she asked the one question that had been sitting behind her teeth the whole time. Has anyone ever been hurt because of you, someone who did not deserve it? His jaw tightened. Yes. What did you do? I made sure it never happened again. She held his eyes and nodded once. She did not know if she believed every word. She did not know yet if it changed anything. She only knew that he had told her the truth when he could have told her something easier, and that counted for something she could not fully measure yet. He stood. Told her he had to step outside. She did not ask why. He was gone for 40 minutes. When he came back through her door, his face was composed and his shirt was clean, and his right hand, when he set it down on her kitchen counter, had bruised knuckles across 2 fingers. He did not explain. She did not ask. She walked to her freezer, pulled out a bag of frozen peas, wrapped it in a dish towel, and placed it across his hand without a word. He looked at her for a long moment. Then, very quietly, he said, "Thank you." And something between them, something that had started as a wrong number and a mortifying Tuesday night, became something neither of them had a word for yet. But they both felt it settle into the room like it had always belonged there. 3 months later, Nadine Webb was still a nurse. She still woke up early. Still drove herself to the hospital. Still stood on her feet for 12 hours taking care of people who needed someone steady in their corner. That had not changed. She had not changed, not the parts that mattered. But she was more. Priya stopped her in the break room on a slow Wednesday afternoon and asked, with the full weight of a woman who had watched the whole thing unfold from the front row, "How are you? And I mean really, Nadine. How are you?" Nadine thought about it honestly before she answered. "I'm not just surviving anymore." Priya looked at her for a long moment, then pressed her lips together and nodded, the way people nod when they are genuinely, unexpectedly moved by something simple. 3 months ago, Nadine had sat on the edge of her bed at 11:47 at night, desperate and tired, and reaching out to a man who had never once reached back with both hands. She had sent her most vulnerable words into the wrong number, into the wrong area code, into the life of a man whose name alone made financial attorneys lose sleep. And he had asked if she was safe. He had said she should not have to just survive. There was a running joke between them now, quiet and private, the kind that belongs only to 2 people who survived something together. He had taken those original words, the ones she had typed in desperation and shame, and had something engraved on a thin gold bracelet he left on her kitchen counter one morning without announcement or explanation. She had picked it up, read it, and laughed until her eyes watered and her stomach hurt. She wore it every day. On a Friday evening, Nadine stood at the floor-to-ceiling window of the penthouse 41 floors above Atlanta, the city laid out below her like it was being offered as a gift. Sung-Jin stood behind her, close enough that she could feel the warmth of him, one hand resting at the small of her back. She thought about the woman who had almost thrown her phone into the Chattahoochee River. She thought about all the ways that night could have ended, in silence, in embarrassment, in the long, forgettable quiet of a wrong number corrected and forgotten. Instead, it ended here. With a man who stood when she walked into rooms. With a life she had not planned and could not have imagined and would not trade for anything her careful, practical mind would have chosen on purpose. The wrong number. The right person. And proof, solid and undeniable, that sometimes the most important door you ever walk through is the one you stumbled into by accident. If this story moved you, touched something real in you, or made you think about the unexpected turns your own life has taken, share it. Drop your thoughts in the comments. Your words might be exactly what someone else needed to read today. Subscribe and turn on your notifications so you never miss a story on this channel, because we tell the kind of stories that remind you who you are and what you are worth. We will see you in the next one.